Hello, it's that time of the year again, the time when all the final year medical students in Australia are putting together their applications for their internship for the next year. So it's May 2024 and we're talking about medical students in Australia putting in applications for their intern allocation for the 2025 clinical year. Just a reminder that typically the clinical or academic year for trainee doctors in Australia runs from about late January, early February every year through to the following year. So we apply the year before for the position in the year coming. This can get confusing, but so we're talking about 2025 internships, but obviously we are applying in the year 2024. And as per usual, I have put together a guide on my blog. I try to make this more useful every year for you guys to help you ensure your success with your application. It's got a lot of information, a lot of details, spent a lot of information, a lot of time trying to get this accurate, even just beforehand when I noticed some of my numbers were wrong. So we're going to just quickly run through the number of positions as we know it as of May 9th. I'm recording this on 2024 for all the jurisdictions thus far. So here's your guide. Bit of a kind of a summary of the main things that you need to know about. We've got a rundown of the positions available. I'll come back to that. But there's also a handy key dates ledger there for you, table of contents, etc. It's very comprehensive. So we'll just start with a headline sort of table. And you can see I've got all the jurisdictions lined up there. Now, a couple of things to note here. Some of these positions are up to date as per the jurisdictional websites. The main ones do tend to publish their current numbers on their website. They do tend to go up as the year goes on, by the way. You know, they often go up by a few by the time the year concludes. So again, these are May 2024. The figures for New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland and South Australia and the Northern Territory this year. Good on you, NT, for improving your process this year. Figures that have been published on their sites, which are for the numbers that we know of at this point in time that they have available for 2025. Unfortunately, with Western Australia, Tasmania and the Australian Capital Territory, they don't publish the up-to-date information about how many internships are available. I believe that they should, and I think this is a problem with the process. There is this National Intern Audit process, which I might do a separate video on at some point, which actually does collect all this data, but it's not made publicly available. So I do believe that every jurisdiction should actually provide, I think it's reasonable, some figures so that you know actually how many positions are available. For various reasons, Western Australia, in their coordinated systems, say that it's reliant on the primary employee health services and they can't publish the figures for some weird reason. Tasmania and the ACT, generally because they're smaller jurisdictions, sometimes they take a little bit of time with this stuff. If anyone from Western Australia or ACT or Tasmania would like to give me the figures, I'd be very happy to include them here and update this guide. Because I think it's really important that we have accuracy here, and a lot of medical students do use this guide to help with their decision making. For example, Tasmania, which has improved its salary astronomically and its conditions for trainee doctors astronomically, it would be a great idea if on their website they published how many numbers they were available now. But anyway, that's my rant. So we can see as of now we have almost 300, and I suspect it is well over 300 because some of those jurisdictions, as I say, were basing it on previous year's data. Extra intern positions this year as opposed to for last year, or actually that's this year. So extra positions for next year as opposed to currently this year. And everyone, has gone up a little bit, it seems. So let's dive into a bit more of the detail. We'll start with the great state of New South Wales, which is my stomping ground at the moment, although I am proudly from Tasmania and just became a foundation member of the Tassie Devils Football Club, by the way. Probably member 150,000 or something like that already. So anyway, New South Wales, intern positions well over 1,000 now. When I was the director at Heady, I was kind of thinking we might actually get to crack the 1,000 at some point while I was there, but didn't happen in my tenure, but it's definitely happened now. So they're forging heavily forward. 224 of those are rural preferential, by the way. So if you're interested in a rural internship, you can go no further than New South Wales. And you can see a breakdown of where they're available per network. A lot of this is from the Heady website. They do a very good job of publishing information and guides for applying, etc. Now, one thing to notice, if you go back to the table as well I showed you before, the annual salary ain't good for New South Wales, and it's getting further behind the rest. As I highlighted, Tasmania had a big increase in their award in favour of the trainee doctors. The consultants actually stood back and took a much smaller increase in lieu of the trainee doctors getting a bigger increase in Tasmania, which Good on you, staffies in Tasmania, for doing that. And it's really made their salary competitive. And it was pretty much the only one that was kind of close to New South Wales. So New South Wales is very much behind on salary, and something really needs to be done about that. Pro for working in New South Wales, you do get a 2-year contract. Another negative, though, is most awards now have some sort of professional development allowance for trainee doctors. Sometimes not if you're an intern, but usually once you become a resident. Again, that just does not exist in New South Wales. So lots of award reform that really needs to be done in New South Wales to keep it competitive and stop it losing doctors to other parts of Australia and New Zealand and everywhere else. So that's New South Wales for you. Of course, you've got the 4 pathways. You've got the Aboriginal recruitment pathway, or the rural, the regional, and the optimised or main pathway. Moving on to Victoria, intern numbers at this point 973. I suspect that for next year, when we come back to this, we'll see that Victoria's cracked the 1,000 mark as well. As you can see, a much better salary. But one thing that's not great about Victoria, and I think they're looking at this because with the national framework for pre-vocation, which is now 2 years, I think a lot of jurisdictions are looking at having at least a 2-year contract. At the moment, though, you have to reapply for you have to reapply for residency very early on in your internship, which makes no sense at all. There is a professional development allowance, though, for an intern, and it goes up as you get more senior as well. And there you can see there's a breakdown of the positions, courtesy of the Postgraduate Medical Council Victoria's website there. So they do a really good job of providing lots of good information about their process as well. They've got intern priorities as well, preferencing rural. There are some places you can go if you're an Aboriginal intern as well, under preferential, so with some Indigenous scholarships. So good on them as well for that. Then we come to Queensland, 886 this year, including 74 rural generalists. Even better salary, only 1-year contract though. No professional development allowance for interns, but it does kick in when you're a resident medical officer. And again, we've got a breakdown of the positions available across the year. I think that number's slightly different to the one up there. This is the accurate number. I'm not sure why that's lower. That might be last year's figures, perhaps. And again, maybe not as good a website for navigating around your way, but a reasonable information provided there as well. We then come over to Western Australia, and as I said, we don't get figures from Western Australia. They cite the fact that the primary health employment health services determine how many positions they will have at any point in time. But I did, as I say, dig out from their annual report 2022-23 that in 23 at least they recruited 393 interns. So I suspect it's somewhere north of 410, 420 now. And again, 25 available in country health. And as I understand it, if you take a post in country health as an intern, you'll get a significant higher salary as well. Another big pro for WA is the length of contract, which is 3 years, which is, I think, the best in the country. We also have a professional development allowance as well, so that's good too. Next is South Australia. Now, South Australia, I am involved in the pre-vocational system there now as the chair of accreditation for SA Met, and they're doing some good stuff. And they've got some reasonably good information again on their website, and they've at least estimated numbers based on 2024 final positions. I think they do have like a live update at some point about actually how many positions they have. So currently we've got 328, including 37 rural intern posts. Mid-range salary, but again, another good thing about South Australia, it's similar to Western Australia. There's a 3-year contract in place now, but no professional development allowance. And then you can see again the breakdown of where the positions are available. There's basically 3 big metro sites and then a range of rural networks with smaller numbers, obviously. Further on to Tasmania, my old stomping ground, we're estimating 105, that should be, I think, not 106. Good salary now. Only a 1-year contract. Again, I think that will change with the 2-year framework. No professional development allowance if you're an intern, but as a resident, you do get one. There are rural options as well with Tasmania. Northern Territory, 88 intern numbers this year. Probably, I think it's about, again, I need to update this, but most of them will be in top end around Darwin, and then you've got Alice Springs. I don't think we actually get a breakdown, but I will check that on the post because obviously those numbers are probably from last year and I haven't updated them. Again, a reasonably good salary. There's some tax benefits to working in the Northern Territory. You get taxed slightly less on your PAYG as well, although the cost of living for goods in particular is a little bit higher, so that probably offsets that. And there is a professional development allowance. Again, only a 1-year contract. Again, I expect that will change. And then finally, the Australian Capital Territory, 95 interns based on the previous year's numbers, Salary is now, I think, the second worst in Australia. 2-year contract. They often reflect a little bit what New South Wales does. But there is a professional development allowance now, and they do provide a mobile phone allowance and a relocation allowance as well. So that's good as well. Now, they're all the states and territories. There is, of course, the Commonwealth Private Hospital Stream. I'm suspecting at some point this will disappear because for the last 2 years, we've actually been subscribed for intern numbers across the jurisdictions. This has been a scheme that's been in place for some years to address the concern that international students studying in medicine as a medical student in Australia get access to internships. So for the last few years, there have been 115 places available. I don't expect that will change this year. I don't have any information about how many were taken up last year, but I suspect, again, maybe they didn't fill all of them. The timelines for that are actually after all the state and territory internships have been applied for and most have been allocated. So it's kind of a mop-up scheme, and you're only eligible if you are an international student. You can't apply as an Australian medical student. And I think I've got a list of the hospitals somewhere that are participating in it. Yeah, so they're spread through quite a few hospitals in Queensland, one in New South Wales, actually a couple in New South Wales, more than a couple, Victoria and WA, so only 4 states, in fact. So there you go, wrap up of the internship numbers around Australia. Just going back to the headline figure, at the moment we have 4,136 and a half. That half is a part-time internship that's available somewhere in New South Wales. Actually, I think New South Wales and Victoria have a few of those now, or almost a 300 intern increase from the following year. So happy applying, and watch further videos. I'll probably do a video on tips for ensuring your success with the process and answering the chestnut question about, can I hack the HEDI algorithm? Bye for now.